Okay, today we're going to do the law of sines and cosines review. This is kind of the last time you guys are really going to see this before you take a quiz on it. So make sure you're doing the review. I'm going to know if you guys watched the video or not, because on the front you have to do the whole thing. On the back, you only have to do problems 11, 14, 16, and 19. You're going to have a really tough time on this if you do all of the other ones, okay? Okay, here's your warm-up for today. Go ahead and pause the video, draw this in your notebook, and do this warm-up, and then unpause it and we'll go through the answer together. Okay, Kellen, what did you do first on yours?
It's the sine inverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put it in the equation.
Yep, so c squared equals, remember you have to have side angle side. We do have side angle side on this one, right? So it does work. So we'll do c squared equals the first side squared plus the second side squared minus 2 times the first side times the second side times the cosine of 37 degrees, right? And when Kellen typed that in his calculator, he got c squared equals approximately, I probably should do approximately, 44.4, but you guys are putting this in your calculator with the answer button anyway, so it doesn't matter how many decimals you write down. But when you do that, you do the square root, so those are the opposite, and you should get approximately 6.6 as your answer. Make sure you guys on your side length actually label 6.6 because the back of that worksheet, you guys have to solve for all of the angles and all of the missing sides. So if you don't have it labeled, you're not going to be able to get the other ones. Okay, this is the worksheet you guys have. Go ahead and download it. If you just want to draw these on a separate sheet of paper or just show your work on a separate sheet of paper and not print it, that's fine. If you want to print it, that's also fine. Just you have to do problems 1 through 10 and then do 11, 14, 16, and 19. You guys aren't actually doing all of these problems. So the first side is just law of cosines. So if you want to write on there somewhere that the front page is, or not law of cosines, law of sines, sorry. The first side is law of sines. So if you want to write on the front side that it's law of sines, the back side you're going to use law of cosines, and then you're going to use law of sines. So, Kellen, can you kind of see this? Okay, so remember we have to have like our one that everything's given on. So we have our angle and our side across from it, right? So that's the one we're going to use first. So the sine of 89 degrees over 24 equals, and they want us to find the measure of angle A. So we have A, and the side across from it is 12, right? So we have to do the sine of angle A. We don't know it yet, right? Over, what's the length of side A? 12. So now here's where we do our multiplication and division, right? So we're going to multiply diagonally, then divide. So the sine of 89 times 12 over 24 is going to equal the sine of A, right? This is one of those ones where we're going to have to do the inverse afterwards. So type in 12 times the sine of 89 divided by 24 first. I might have to get my calculator too. Okay, so you should have gotten 0.499, kind of repeating, is approximately the sine of A. There's one step we have left though. We have to take the sine inverse of both sides, right? Because we have to get this A by itself. So in your calculator, do sine inverse, so second sine, and then do second answer so that it takes all of those decimal places, right? And you should get 29.99. If we were to round that to the nearest tenth though, it would be 30. So 30 degrees equals A. And you'd make sure that you labeled it on your triangle. make sure you guys are showing your work when you submit this online, because that's the amount of work I had to show to get the answers, so you definitely have to show your work as well. Okay? That's the only law of sines we're going to go through, so go ahead and flip to the back, and we're going to do some law of cosines together. Okay, we're going to just do all of 11 together. Notice that the directions say solve each triangle, round your answer to the nearest tenth. If it says solve each triangle, that means you have to solve for every single side and every single angle. So these ones on the back, you might want to make yourself a little note, like start with law of cosines. Then law of sines. So do you want to write yourself a note, Kellen? It'll probably make the back easier. So start with law of cosines, then do the law of sines, because you're going to solve for that other side length first, and then it's going to make it way easier. So write yourself that note. You guys, we're doing this as a video today just to go through a couple examples real quick, but this is the homework as well. So I'm really giving you 2 of your homework problems for free. So make sure you guys are writing this down. Okay, so we're going to start with law of cosines, right? So I'm going to label this A because it's across from A, right? This one. So we're going to do A squared equals the first side squared, so 16.3 squared, plus the second side squared, so 18.6 squared, minus 2 times the first side times the second side times the cosine of the angle, which is 103.8. So go ahead and type that in your calculator. That looks pretty good. I'm going to type it in mine too, and we'll see if our answers are the same. Sound good? 18.6 squared. Whoops, I forgot my plus sign. Minus 2 times 16.3 times 18.6 times the cosine of 103.8. Is that what you got? I think that's the same thing. Okay, so you guys should have gotten A squared is approximately 756.287. It doesn't really matter how many decimal places you write down right because you're using the answer button anyways. So we'll do the square root of both sides. So do second square root, second answer, and you should have gotten 27.5, right? So A is approximately 27.5. So go ahead and label it on your triangle. Then we have to find these other angles, right? We really only need to use law of sines to find one other angle. The other ones we can just subtract from 180 degrees because of the triangle angle sum theorem. So let's just go ahead and find angle C first. So C would go with this 16.3 side, right? So we're going to do the sine of C over 16.3 equals, and the one that we have everything for is A, so we have to use A, right? So what's the measure of angle A, Kellen?
20, or the angle of 103.8.
And then what do we put that over?
27.5.
So then we have to multiply diagonally and divide. So we have 16.3 times the sine of 103.8 over 27.5. So go ahead and type in that in your calculator, and this is going to equal the sine of C. Oops. should be divided by. Is that what you got, Kellen?
Yeah.
Okay, so the sine of C is approximately 0.5756. Doesn't really matter how many decimal places you write down because you're going to use the answer button. So do the sine inverse of both sides. We need to get that sine away from there. So do second sine, second answer. And you should get approximately, so C is approximately 35.1. So go ahead and label it on your triangle. C is approximately 35.1. Okay, and that's degrees, right? What's the easiest way we can find that other side, Kellen?
Subtract it.
Yeah, so let's do, the last thing you guys should do is 180 minus your first angle minus your second angle and figure out what that equals.
41.2. Actually, I didn't do that.
Yeah, 41.1, I think.
I didn't do that.
So you should get 41.1 degrees. The reason we can do that is because of triangle angle sum theorem, right? They have to add to 180 degrees. So start with law of cosines, do law of sines, then what was the last thing we did, Kellen?
You gotta find all the angles. Subtract.
Yeah, subtract the other two angles from 180 degrees. So law of cosines, law of sines, subtract from 180 degrees. So that's all the video we're going to have today, you guys. So you really only have 3 triangles on the back that you have to do, and you have 9 on the front. The front's law of sines, though, so it shouldn't be too time consuming. I have a lot of people, you guys, not watching the videos. So I'm going to double your point values on your homework. So usually we do, if you have 4 homework problems, the homework is worth 4 points. I'm going to do, the homework will be worth 8 points now. You get 4 points just for watching the video and doing what I say. And the doing what I say part for today is to write your favorite quote somewhere on your homework when you submit it. If I don't see your favorite quote on there, I know you didn't watch the video and you don't get those points. So you should be watching the whole video to get credit for being in class. That's part of your guys' attendance. For being at home, you can't just skip the videos. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you email me. We can always schedule a Zoom if you have more questions.